Hello and welcome to Wildside Fishing fly tying. The fly that we are going to tie today is a wet fly. It's usually fished as a point fly at the end of the leader. It's one of the first flies I ever tied for fishing in the Highlands. Now it's loosely based around an Alexandria, which of course is a classical wet fly. This variation I call the Hollybush, and it's very rarely let me or any of my guests down, so I'm going to show you how to tie it today. I'd certainly recommend you having a few of these if you go up in the West Highlands. Start off with, we've got a size 10 hook today. I mean, you can tie this in a size 8 as well, size 6 even if you want. I wouldn't go any smaller than a size 12, but size 10 seems about right. So we just start by bringing our thread down the shank and stopping off before the bend. Just trim this off. For the tail, we've got yellow crystal flash, so we just take about 4 or 5 strands and trim them off. Now when you tie this in, tie it in the whole length of the shank, pinch it down on top and tie it around. Now some people would actually trim this off. I like to tie it around. It just helps to keep the body uniform in diameter. There we go, that's nice and tight. We can trim this off at the back. There we go. Now the next thing we're going to tie in will be a rib. For the rib we're using silver oval tinsel. And again, line this up to the end here. Go once round to lock it in and then push it on the top. And you can do big open turns here, they don't have to be touching, because you can do your touching turns or your tighter turns on the way back down. Now that's nice and tight. So we've got our rib, our tail. For the body, we're going to use peacock herl. Again, it's a kind of classical material for tying wet flies with. Now I'm going to take 3 strands here and we're going to turn them over. So we tie in with the tougher end first. And we're just going to tie these in. Like that. Now these ones you don't have to bring them the whole length. You can trim these off. And then we tie our silk down the length of the body. So, with our herl, we come around, and again, this should give you this lovely lush green, almost turquoisey blue effect to the body. I think it's one of the most classical colours you can ever give a wet fly, really. Bring this round up to the point that we stopped, and then just with our silk tie it off. So, whoops, it goes over. Good. Now we can trim this off. So far so good. Now we get the rib. The rib we're going to bring around, again, in equal turns. And tie it off. So far so good. Tail, body, rib. Now we're going to add in 2 hackles. Now you can do this separately or you can do this together. I'm going to show you how to do it together. We've got a red and a light blue paracock hackles here. Simply find the point where they start matching together here. I mean, they're both kicking off about here. and bring them together. Now we don't need many turns of this. We just need to put the points together. These have to be tight when you bring them down now. And tie these up to where the rib ended and the body ended. Now, I'm just going to trim these off. And then go back down again just to seal up the whole thing. Now, starting on from the top, from the shank of the hook, bring the fibres down together and catch them with your hackle pliers. And we go once, and then push the fibres back, or pull them back rather, and twice, and that should be enough. I'm going to hold them, and bring the silk over, just to lock them in. And once more round, and we can trim these off. There we go. Now the blue and the red fibres are mixed up nicely together, so you want to pull these back. Now this is where you've got to be careful not to get too bulky with the head, because we're going to have a big wing coming on here. So, get your fibres pushed back like this. A lovely mix of blue and red. Now for the finish wing, I'm just going to tie this down nice and tight. We're going to get now this stuff here. I used to use peacock swords. The original fly was tied with peacock swords. They're fantastic material for tying wings, just like the Alexandria, but I find they tend to disintegrate rather quickly in the Highlands. The trout have got teeth. So I found this stuff. Now this is it's like a kind of synthetic, tinsely, holographic, flashy. I honestly don't know what it's called. You want to look for something. I mean, this is like a woven set of tinsel here, if you can see that, and it's got little bits of flashy holographic tinsel. You don't need much of this to make a good wing for this fly. So what we'll do is we'll just take a pinch here. I mean that, let's take out some of the tinsel. That's more than enough. Now, I'm just going to trim this off, like so. And again, you don't have to trim this at the back yet. We can do that once it's tied on. And you want to bring this over and you want to keep the head reasonably neat and tidy at the end of this, so try to be careful when you bind this in. It's not the easiest of materials to work with to make something neat. And once it's locked in, you want to trim this away at an angle, if possible. And of course, watch that you don't cut the silk at this point. Now once that's in, we can start to build up the head and lock it all in. It does give you quite a bulky head on this fly, but it doesn't really affect how it fishes. And we bring this round, trapping in everything. No, we'll get one little bit there, but it's alright. It's not going to affect it. Now when you bring this back to trim it, what you want to do is come back to the wing, come back to the tail, sorry. Trim it in line, and there you go. That's your fly. That's a Hollybush. So when this is all wet, obviously the whole thing kind of slicks together. I cannot give you any explanation why trout take this. I've seen trout take this on the surface when it's landed. I've had trout take it deep down, high up, in any real part of the water. They just seem to go for this. I had a guy last year with me fishing it. First cast, it hit the surface, the trout kept and took it like a dry fly. I mean, you wouldn't. I've had guys look at this thing and actually suggest that I'm not quite right in the head to even fish it, but it catches for me, and I'd certainly recommend it for anyone going to the West Highlands. So we just finish the head. And again, this is going to be it's quite a big head, so make sure you put on plenty of varnish to keep that from opening up. And don't be frightened of covering the eye, because we're going to clean that in a second. It's almost better to over varnish than under varnish, especially with big heads like these and big materials like we've just used. Now, I've got my 2 points here, so I'm going to take one of them, and to clean the head, we just poke the hackle down through, give it a little twist. You can pull it through like this as well. You can, I mean, there's quite a lot on that head. You want it nice and clean. And there we have it, our finished fly. So, hope you enjoyed that. We're going to come back soon with another fly that we use in the West Highlands, obviously. So until then, thank you very much for watching, and Wildside Fishing.